qualified for this position. But before I do that, just to kind of change the mood a little bit here, it's an intense past couple of minutes. I will tell you a quick story that will make you laugh at my misfortune and hopefully put people in a little bit of a better mood. Earlier today, I had a lunch in the Wilshire Center area, and I got stuck for several hours could not get to my car, could not get out of the area because of a bomb scare, which is not a funny thing, but I was stuck for several hours. I had to walk several blocks through a lot of windy wind tunnels. And eventually got out. I had to take a subway to get in a taxi to get to downtown. It was a rough start to the morning, but I did find a crisp $1 bill on the floor earlier, and so that I thought was going to turn around my fortune. But as I was on my way here, I hit another wind tunnel, but this time I had a cup of coffee in my hand and ultimately spilled a cup of coffee all over myself. Which actually felt nice because it was warm, but then it instantly felt freezing cold because of the wind. So I apologize for being late earlier. I apologize for not showing up like a candidate should in a suit and tie and all the rest of it. But that was my day. So hopefully no one had a worse day than that. I will tell you. Let me just take the rest of the time here to tell you a little bit about myself. I have spent my career focused on creating good jobs here in LA City and actually trying to make government work for us. And when we're talking about a lot of the issues some of the issues that we've had here in the city, whether it's responsiveness from a city council member or city departments, or dealing with a lot of the challenges as far as budget restrictions and some of the other issues that we have, whether it's related to public safety or city services, that's the type of work that I've dedicated my life to. And let me be a little bit more specific about why I'm running for the city council and what it is that I hope to accomplish during that time. So really, I really think there are three main things that I really want to talk about. I think it's one, I mentioned earlier, talking about being able to actually create good jobs here in LA for local Angelinos, that I can put people to work in jobs that you can actually raise a family on, jobs, projects that have put thousands of people to work in high wage jobs with benefits right here in Los Angeles. It's something that I actually feel like I have some expertise on, have a record on, and would love nothing more than to actually bring that expertise to the city council here in LA. We still have double-digit unemployment in the city. When you talk about a lot of the quality of life issues, when you talk about trying to create more revenue for the city, job creation I think is issue number one still for LA. The second thing I want to talk about is really talking about the city's infrastructure, and I think it's really been neglected in a lot of ways in terms of getting the right amount of resources and crumbling in some instances. When we talk about our streets, our sidewalks, the ability to trim trees, our street lights, the ability to pick up our trash and cover up and paint graffiti in a fast and efficient manner. I'm not satisfied. I don't know if you are, but I'm not satisfied as a resident. I'm actually a neighbor of this office. I live up on the hill here on Bonnie Bridge, just overlooking the freeway. And I'm not satisfied with the level of service. I think we can do better. I think we need to do more to prioritize money in those basic city services. And having spent time working for a council member, I spent time working for the mayor, and ultimately my last position as the one of the general managers of the Department of Public Works, which is really responsible for many of the issues that I mentioned earlier today as far as city services. And I apologize that a member of the Department of Public Works has never been here, or it sounded like they hadn't been here lately. We have 5 commissioners that split up that time. I'm now resigned, but I will call my former colleagues and ask them to come and visit this group and hear kind of what the issues are, and in fact actually try and provide some service. The last thing I think is really important is continuing to build out a comprehensive public transit system here in LA. Traffic is something that we all struggle with living in LA, something that drives us crazy. I spent the last several years actually helping accelerate several of the mass transit projects, not here in Echo Park, but the Crenshaw line that goes through South LA, the Wilshire subway that will start very soon, and what we were able to do was actually fight for additional federal funding to accelerate those projects so that they'll start years ahead of time, create tens of thousands of jobs years ahead of time, and help clean up the nation's worst there. So that's a little bit about who I am. There's going to be a longer conversation. I know folks have just gotten through an election, and probably the last thing they want to talk about is another election. So I just wanted to come and say hello. I'm free to answer any questions you like. We're going to begin the conversation with voters throughout the district, including residents right here in Echo Park. And I look forward to just starting that conversation and hearing what you think the next council member should be. What do you think they should focus on? When we talk about budgets, what are the services that we really want to focus on? I've got some ideas, and I'd love to share them with you and also hear what you have to say. So happy to take questions if you
Very cool. So we'll start with comments from the public, questions from the public. Yes. Go ahead.
Oh, well, you sound frankly like the used car salesman I wouldn't buy a car from.
Okay.
When you come before an Echo Park audience, I expect you to know the Echo Park issues. I haven't heard one word about a crucial question. What is your position about Barlow and the development they choose to make?
Sure.
I want to know exactly where you stand.
Sure. I have not seen the proposal. I don't know the details.
No, where have you been?
Well, you know, if I had a chance to sit down with the developers and actually walk through it, I'd love to sit down with them.
Well, with the developer, you've just done it.
Okay.
Well, let me just respond generally speaking. I haven't seen the details. I know it's a concern for people in this community. It's just outside the 13th district boundaries, I believe. So it's an issue but it's an issue I understand affects people that live in this community that are part of this neighborhood council. My philosophy and my policy is this: whenever it comes to development projects in the city, whether it's the hospital or a mixed-use development or anything else that might come in, the first folks that I'm going to come to and talk to are the folks that actually live in those neighborhoods. And that includes the neighborhood council and beyond. And I think that's where I would start. Without understanding what the proposal really is, all I know is that it's a proposal to redevelop and renovate the existing hospital. And that's the extent of what I know.
Okay, that's not correct. But let's, so you don't have a position on Barlow?
I don't yet, because I haven't gotten...
Okay. Okay, Jake?
Yeah, it's great to say that you want to focus on more core services. I guess I have multiple questions that you won't have to answer tonight, but at some point you will have to answer to everybody. What do you believe are the core services of the city? The city has a $215 million projected budget deficit. How would you fill that, and are you for or against the proposed Herb Wesson sales tax to fill that hole? And finally, how would you propose to streamline and fix the fraud, abuse, and waste in our city to get those dollars to fill that budget?
So I will try to answer each question with very short, clear answers. I forgot your very first question, though, because I was thinking about the last question. What was your very first question?
Core services.
Core services. So I think the core services are the things I mentioned. Ability to pave streets, ability to fix sidewalks, trim trees. I package that all kinds of the actual physical landscape of your neighborhoods, whether it's a major street or a smaller street. And secondly, public safety. I think those are the core services that police and fire that provide, along with the basic infrastructure that the city should be basically responsible for. My proposal is to actually create a dedicated funding source separate and apart from the general fund for those services, for the streets, sidewalks, and the tree maintenance. Second question was, what am I going to do about the
$215 million budget deficit?
So I think it's two things. One thing is we have to create more revenue. We've cut 5,000 employees in the city over the last several years, and what that means is 5,000 less salaries, but that also means 5,000 less people delivering the services that you need from the city. So in order to create revenue, it's a two-step process. One, it's a consideration of whether it's the sales tax, a document transfer tax, a tax on parking lot operators, and actually the third thing is actually going after debts that are owed to the city. The city's owed $121 million. I think that's about accurate in terms of outstanding fees, many of which are from our parking lot operators. So I think as far as fraud, abuse, and waste, I think one thing is that we need to go and collect the money that's owed to us. The second part of it is actually bringing jobs to LA. We need to actually have a city that's business friendly, and by that I specifically mean going and attracting in a new industry here in Los Angeles, leveraging LA as the creative capital of the world. That's not just the U.S., but the actual world, and really saying the residents here that live in the 13th district, that live in Echo Park, that live in Silver Lake, that live in Hollywood, are the ones that are actually producing, creating, and we need to do things like having a production incubator here in the city, where the city can actually find space just like this, actually, low-cost space, and say, we're going to incentivize you to come and do your production here. We want to make it easier. We're going to provide expertise. We're going to provide marketing, and actually create some jobs out of that opportunity, out of that type of idea. So I think we need to have additional revenue. I'm not sure what the form is. I think the sales tax is a regressive tax that hurts working people. That bears the most burden on working people, and I'm concerned about that. I'm concerned about whether it actually passes or not, and I don't think we can continue to go back to you and say, pass the sales tax if you vote it down, and come back to you and say, pass a different tax and vote it down. I think we need to have a real plan. So I'm not sure if the sales tax is going to pass or not. I'm not sure if it's something that will really work. It certainly will help close the revenue gap that we have in the city, but I think we need to put all the options on the table, and we need to actually bring more jobs to LA. I think that's how we close our budget deficit.
Okay, who else has got questions? Okay, so I got a question, and so we'll start with Todd, and then I'll... Dad, sorry. On another note, but somewhat related to your last comment, LA is a great cultural community that has very diverse and often very separated or even segregated cultural communities within it. I personally think a good deal of great work could be done in service to the community and help make all of those services that you're talking about perform better. If we do something to culturally unite or culturally integrate our city, not to homogenize people, but to get the communication lines better.
Absolutely.
Would you consider a 1% for the arts in a city development plan, maybe on developments over $100,000 proposed to the city, even though this is a developer's built and we all know what kind of toll that puts on people?
Well, I'm not certain about this, but I believe that Quimby funds are still dedicated for that purpose, and that 1% is actually still part of that process. Is that not your understanding?
My understanding is that the city has essentially disabled every body that was...
Oh, that's true. Well, they took the Cultural Affairs Department off of the general fund. I think it's independently funded now, so I think you're absolutely right. I think the arts and culture, particularly in neighborhoods like this, are incredibly important, and it's part of the value and character of Los Angeles. And you can't be a community that's just shopping malls and development without really having appreciation for what arts and culture really means for working people in terms of source of income and actually creative expression, but also what you said, bringing communities together. I think having a 1% or some sort of automatic, like the Quimby funds did, although I'm not sure how we would structure it right now with it being on a separate budget, but I'd absolutely be open to talking about it. I think that's something that's really essential, that's something that's really important. Just last night I was at the East Hollywood Neighborhood Council, and they brought in a number of students from LA Commons who had done something pretty simple, but something really amazing. They had done an art project where they took the utility boxes that you see along sidewalks in commercial and residential areas and had done an exhibition over several dozen utility boxes representing different cultures that they're from or that make up Los Angeles. See, basic things like that, I think we should actually have funding for those types of programs. I think having arts programs for the youth is incredibly important. And so absolutely, I would love to, if you have an idea about how to make it work, I'd love to hear from you and talk through it with you a little bit more.
When did you move to CD13?
I moved to my apartment here in Echo Park in February this year.
And did you live in CD13?
I did not. I lived prior to that, I was in downtown, just a few blocks away from City Hall, and lived in Koreatown, just outside the district prior to that.
All right. Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, one more?
Sorry. I want to go back to Barlow for a second, because you said that you didn't really know very much about it. And so I'm wondering how you, not knowing very much about it and having accepted the maximum donation from the CEO of Barlow Hospital, Margaret Crane, and also the chief developer, Sarah Jensen from Jensen and Partners, how fair you think you'll be able to be on this issue, especially considering your relationship with Maria Elena de Raza, who's also advocating for the project.
Well, I don't know every donor on my list, but I'm happy to look at the list and go back. I would say that the maximum contribution is $700. As of now, I've raised $175,000, so if $1,400 out of $175,000 is going to make or break a decision, I don't think that's not certainly how I would operate. Maybe that's how other candidates or other elected officials operate. Certainly not how I would operate. As I said, I think what's incredibly important, where I would start first, is to listen to folks that have concerns and what their input would be about a project like Barlow, whether it's here in CD13 or in the Elysian Park area. I would say that what I do know is, and you said about that's not completely accurate. I know there's a rehabilitation of the hospital. There's commercial development attached to it. I don't know what the scale is. I don't know what the number of projects is, and that's...
It's a really large-scale project.
Yeah.
That is not a by-right development.
Yeah.
And they're asking for major changes to the community plan. And, I personally ran on an anti-Barlow platform. So,
Sure. No, and I can hear the concern from Ida, who left, and Christine, right? and Ari. So absolutely, if I'm elected, and hopefully prior to that, I'll have an opportunity to really see and see what the program, what the project entails, and hear from you guys what your concerns are, and then take a position on the project.
Just a quick comment.
You didn't finish
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
question, though, because I mean, it's very important. I mean, the board may not know this, but you have a very close relationship
Sure,
with
I used to
Mary
work for
Lynn
Marilyn.
And she has already advocated and is on the website for this project, supporting it, and as being pro-union and being supported by union and being endorsed potentially by union. Where do you stand on an issue like that and being fair and listening to the community as opposed to, I'll have to say this quite frankly, just towing the party line, which is supporting IBW?
Sure, and I think that's a very fair question. So what she's referring to is I spent 2 years working for the LA County Federation of Labor. It's a labor organization. It's an umbrella organization that represents about 300 unions across LA County. These are firefighters, teachers, the whole gamut of public and private sector workers. I wasn't aware that Mary Lynn was on the website supporting the project, but my response is how I would respond about any local issue in the district. I'm running to be the council member of the entire city council district 13. I'm not running to be the council member for Maria Elena DeRazzo for the LA County Federation of Labor. That's not why I'm running. Certainly they're actually, Maria Elena is a close friend and mentor of mine. But she knows just as well as I know that I can't be a one-issue candidate. I would not win this race as a one-issue candidate. I wouldn't be able to govern effectively as a city council member as a one-issue candidate. And while I think it's absolutely important to actually create good jobs in the city, again, as I mentioned, that's my #1 priority. I do think that when you talk about local issues, like a Barlow Hospital, or any other local issue that could impact the residents that live near a project, again, having worked in these types of environments, both as a council deputy, both as a public works commissioner, and during my time as an economic development director at the LA County Fed, I've had to manage and balance these issues and try and figure out, okay, how do we get to a state where we can actually compromise and agree on a project that makes sense for a neighborhood? So that's the same approach I take. It's a approach I've taken my whole career, and I would engage you
Are
on.
you planning on going on the record before the election on the project?
I'm sure that people are going to demand that of me, so I think that's something that's coming soon. Yeah.
Okay, can we note that Kelsey has joined us? Okay, great. Is there any additional questions? Thank you very much.
Well, I will leave my, if it's okay, if I could pass my card down, and my cell phone is on that, my email's on it. Anyone wants
If you want
to?
to give me your card, I'll include this part of the minutes.
That'd be great. Here's a stack. I just wanted to pass them around. Feel free to call anytime. It's my personal cell phone. I'd love to talk about your neighborhood. Thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Okay. All right, so let's get thanks very much again. And we're going to move to our short but very sweet calendar items. So let's get to it. We're going to appoint a Dun East Region representative. I'm going to go with Quasi. Appoint him. I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the appointment of Quasi as a Dun rep.
I move to approve Quasi. Second.
Okay, we got Todd Walker on the motion to approve Quasi. Motion to approve the president's appointment of Quasi Nkrumah as the Dun East Region representative, with a second by Tad Yenawine.